right, guys, this is Norwell Central coming back at you with a new podcast, Chatting the Spear.
It's your boy. Hey, I tell y'all, every time I get on the video, I'm trying to be like Central and I'm trying to be like James. Once I get like them, I'll be good, man. That's all. That's my goal. That's my goal for the rest of the year to try to get like these guys right here.
All right, guys. So I'm James. I'm the owner, editor, founder, the jack of all trades for Fearing the Spear. The website's fearingthespear.substack.com. Obviously, we got the Chattin The Spear Twitter handle, but you can follow me on Twitter at Fearing the Spear. That's where I mainly do all my content at. And obviously here on the pod with two. So here we go.
Yeah, I will say this. We're going to be making a new Instagram page pretty soon with the podcast as well. Once you're seeing this, we will have made a new YouTube channel as well. We're going to be promoting those out throughout social media platforms and everything. But let me give you a little bit of a brief synopsis of what the podcast is about. We're not about this hour and 15, 30-minute kind of podcast. We know you have time during the day to listen to a little bit of Florida State football and sports every now and then. So we're going to try to limit to 30 minutes or less if we can. It's going to be a fun podcast. It's not going to be a serious one. It's not going to be like, everything is do or die off of this podcast. We just want to have fun. And I think Jay's smile tells you everything. We want to be a positive light in this space. And I think that's something really that people can enjoy. And I know my 12-year-old less facial hair that I had to shave today does not indicate it, but I will say, man, we're going to have a good time on this podcast, and I cannot wait for the journey we're going to have. Don't know the timetables yet for when we're going to release these throughout the week. It may just be when we're available, may just be once a week. Who knows? So we're going to try to figure out the best way we can and kind of go from there. But James, I want to discuss on something that you wanted to do because we really don't have a script for this podcast. We're just going to kind of roll with it and see where it goes. But you had an idea that you wanted to talk about today. What did you kind of want to allude to in today's podcast?
All right, fellas. So I think the main topic of conversation today for our episode 1 of this podcast would definitely be some key the talking about the release of the football schedule, and then coming up with maybe 2 or 3 key games and maybe a game that really worries us. So on that point, I just want to throw it over to Jay real quick. Jay, with the schedule being released, what are the 2 games that you look at and you're like, man, I'm really looking forward to those games? And then what's the game that later on down the road, sooner in the schedule, it's like, man, that game really worries me for Florida State? Because I have a feeling that we have a lot of the same answers to these, but I just want to see where we're at on this.
I'm pretty sure we do have the same answers. Off top, I'll say Clemson and LSU. Those are the main 2, in my opinion, that I feel like okay, we gotta be ready for those games. Even though I don't think Clemson's gonna be I don't think they're gonna be as good. I don't think they're gonna be to their standards, if that makes sense. So I do think LSU will be good though. I think they will be really good actually, with the work that they're doing in the transfer portal. As far as like a sleeper team, and I think you mentioned it, James, Duke. I think Duke gonna be like a sleeper team, that you really have to watch out for. They was actually pretty good last year, but they was pretty solid. So I think that'll be the sleeper team that we have to watch out for. We just gotta be on our P's and Q's. The rest of the schedule is pretty. If you ask me, it's pretty easy. If you ask me, so I think we got to be on our P's and Q's when we play those 3 teams.
I definitely say, LSU and Clemson. We actually had a video, Jay, where we talked about, is it more important to beat Clemson or LSU? At that point, we both chose Clemson because I think that's where we are as a program. We want to elevate our game in the ACC and be able to finally beat them for the first time since 2014. I will agree on both of those, but my sleeper team is not really Duke. I don't think Duke is going to be that well prepared with it being at Doak Campbell Stadium. Florida State's 21-0 against them. There's a whole lot going on there. The one game I'm kind of nervous about a little bit, if it's not Pitt, I'm definitely worried about at Wake Forest. I know it's end of October. I know Sam Hartman's not there. I get it. But we've always had problems going to Wake Forest. Just ask Jimbo Fisher. He can tell you how many times he's lost at Truist Field. But just kind of looking back at it, I mean, that's a team where Dave Clawson could have those guys ready to go, and you just never can tell. I think otherwise, Miami, Florida is always an intriguing option. But Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to say at Wake Forest kind of scares me, and I'm not really sure what to expect right now.
So I agree with you all um, on some aspects here. I think the biggest game for Florida State, in my mind, is going to be LSU. I mean, the reason why I say that is because I think regardless of where you play Clemson at right now, I think whether you play them on September 23rd, or you play them on November 24th, you play them on Black Friday, whatever it is. I think there's going to be a possibility the way that the ACC is lined up this year, where there's no conference, that you'll get that chance. If you win out and you do your business and you lose to Clemson, that you'll see them again in the ACC championship game. Mm-hmm. I think you look at LSU and Clemson; those are my two games that I'm keeping an eye on the most, obviously for certain things. Like Jay pointed out, LSU had the number one transfer portal coming in. There's a lot of difference. There's a lot of similarities to LSU and Florida State coming back this year. And you got to think Florida State only won by 1 point. Yeah, they had a couple points and P's and Q's here that they could have blown the game out, but at the end of the day, they won by 1. The game that really intrigues me, and I was telling Norvell Central about this earlier before we came on the air, the game that really intrigues me, and then further on, is the October 7th against Virginia Tech. I think Virginia Tech is going to be it's going to be more improved than what they were this past year under Brad Pride coming into his second year. You got to think he's walked into a disabled program, just like anybody else does coming into a new program. But I think Virginia Tech is going to be a tougher opponent to play this year than they would have been last year. And I'm saying that a lot because that's my alma mater. I'm from Blacksburg. I got a love for Virginia Tech, so I'll definitely be at that game. I got a lot of love for the staff over there. The game that really scares me, and I think this team will have a lot of push and pull in the ACC this year, and I think it's going to be Pittsburgh. I think that game on November 4th in Pitt, it's going to be cold. There's going to be a lot of fans travel from Florida to Pittsburgh. I'll be there as well for that game. But I think that game really scares me. But what really intrigues me, and I want to get your all's opinion on this too, is that 8-week stretch. Excuse me, that 8-week stretch without a bye is worrisome to me. So you got Virginia Tech, Cuse, Duke, at Wake, at Pitt, Miami, North Alabama, and you close it out on the road in Florida. I know Florida hasn't been that top program that we're used to, but it always worries me when we got to go to Gainesville to play on Florida. The Swamp is a tough place to play. It don't matter if that team is 0-11 going into that game. The fans and the players are going to give it all. We've seen it last year. I think that game should be on people's radar. I think Florida State will win that game, but I think as of right now, looking ahead at the schedule, that stretch without a bye, because that bye comes after the Clemson game. It comes early this year. You got to have your P's and Q's, dot your I's, and cross your T's to make sure that, one, everybody's healthy and everybody's on cue. So what's your all's opinion? Norvell, I'll ask you.
You did allude to about the bye week situation. We only have one. It's after Clemson. Last year, we had the luxury of playing Duquesne in week 0. So we were able to get 2 bye weeks kind of to prepare for that season last year. That originally helped us a lot with that. So when you're looking at everything that's going on and you're kind of looking at some of those games and everything, I mean, it's not really a favorable schedule. I mean, I'm nervous about a lot of these teams that have, and I mean, that 8-game stretch right there is very pivotal. Specifically, that Miami, Florida in between 2 out of the last 3 games can be something that's kind of a roadblock. You talked about it before. Playing at the Swamp is a hard place to play. Granted, they do have Graham Mertz at quarterback. You really don't know what it is with him. He's kind of a mixed bag of emotions right now with a lot of the turnovers that he's been generating the last couple of years there at Wisconsin. But you're just trying to figure out some momentum that you can be able to kind of build off of. And yeah, the Virginia Tech, Syracuse, Duke, Wake Forest, stretch right there isn't the most daunting thing in the world. But at the same time, that first 4 games sets the tone. And it eliminates, you having that luxury of having those bye weeks, because let's just say some players get injured after Clemson. What happens, at that point? So I think it's just a lot that has to go on with everything. But Florida State's got a tough road ahead with that 8-game stretch.
Yeah, and I agree. The good part about that, the Miami and Florida game, you have North Alabama between those 2 games. So that's the positive side. But like y'all say, it's at the end of the day, it is 8 games. That's a long stretch. So, they're going to have to blow up. And I do think, I'm going to say this too, I do think this team is a totally different team. Mm-hmm. I think they are a team that go out and handle their business now. They're not a team that, they be shaky. 1 week they go out there and they actually handle business. So, yeah, man, we'll see. Hopefully they can get past, the first 4 games, 4-0, and then I think the rest of the schedule will take care of itself.
So when you're thinking about the roster in total, everybody wants to talk about response and how do you respond to adversity? And a lot of times through that first 4 games, you have LSU, you have Clemson, and the next thing you know, you're going into the kind of the meatier schedule. Will you be a 2-2 after those first 4 games and the rest of the season really doesn't quote unquote matter? I don't really know, but when you're looking at some guys that want to contribute right now that you're kind of thinking about, we signed a really good transfer class and we all know about that. We did sign some pretty highly touted recruits in terms of just talent wise with Hakeem Williams and some other guys there. Who do you guys think would be the most beneficial contributor and can have that significant playing time for those guys? Do you think there's anybody on this team that, screams, okay, Hakeem Williams is going to be the most contributed guy on this team, or do you think it might be somebody else that kind of races up there?
I personally think we're going to see Winston Wright have a breakout year. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Yeah,
I think we're going to see him have a career season, a career, tone for this year. I think coming off of the accident from last year and not being able to play, I think he's got a lot of fuel in his fire right now.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be a lot of motivational factors for him. Obviously, he wants to go pro. He wants to do things. So this is going to be the year for him. On the other side of the ball, I think Fentrell Cypress is going to be the leader on defense. I know everybody talks about Jared Verse and what he does, but Cypress is one of those guys on the defensive end that can make noise in the secondary. If you get pressure with Verse and they throw those Cypress's way, he's going to lay the wood on you, or he's going to get past deflections. We've seen what he did over his career at the University of Virginia. So I think we're going to get that and more with Cypress. I think he's going to be the key factor on defense. On offense, I think Wright's going to be a key factor, but I don't think he's going to be the one factor. I think the ultimate X factor for the offense is how Jordan Travis plays. If Jordan Travis plays well, the offense is going to be a well-oiled machine. We're not going to have that many mistakes. I think the running game is pretty solid. Our receiving core is solid. We saw that last year. You add in Cal Warlock and Jaheim Bell. I think the biggest question mark right now for our team is the safety position. I think that's going to be the biggest talking point until they kick off against LSU, and it might even still be at that point. But that's just my opinion. Jay, what do you think?
Man, I totally agree, man. You had a very good point with Fentrell Cypress. When you have your front seven on their job, it makes it easier for the DBs to do their job. Jared Verse, like I say, like everybody know everybody know he's a dog. So that's really, once you got him snapping and you get the other defensive end snapping, that just, Fentrell Cypress, Ronaldo Green back there, you have those guys that they can get their interceptions now. When you have, because now the quarterback gonna feel pressure to throw the ball and they gonna start making mistakes. So a position that I'm curious about is the guard position on the offensive line. Being that you have now Dimitri Menu, it looked like he's going to be staying for another year, but you have Billy Gibbons leaving and going to the NFL. So I'm curious to see how they'll do with that position because he was a leader for the offensive line. He had that veteran experience. So I'm curious to see how they pick up. I think Casey Roddy will pick up where he left off, where Billy Gibbons left off. So those are my 2 positions that I'm going to really key in on.
And I just want to allude to this too, because everyone talks about Alex Atkins, about he's one of the best recruiters on the staff. And yeah, he definitely could be at that point, minus Mike Norvell maybe. But you kind of look at it, he's really turned around that position group and being able to say, okay, man, these guys are really something special. And you look at this offensive line and you saw last year with Wes Harris going down with an injury, Caden Lyles going down with an injury, Robert Scott at a point in time, Maurice Smith. You had guys going down left and right. And next thing you know, man, it's like you were down to 6 guys that may have been contributors at one point. And Florida State fans were like, man, if one person gets hurt, we're screwed, at this point. And he really turned that room around. And now you're looking at guys like, a Julian Armella that's stepping up at tackle. Will he be a starter? Will Jeremiah Byers, the UTEP offensive tackle, offensive guard transfer, will he be able to come in and kind of run away with it? Keandre Jones, Casey Roddick. You got guys that are there. Do you think because Lucas Simmons was a very, very highly touted 4-star prospect. Do you think there is any possible chance that he has an opportunity to be able to kind of get into that rotation of just being one of those guys in the rotation, or do you think it may be 1 or 2 years away for him?
I think it'll be 1 or 2. Even though we all know Lucas Simmons is a dog. We all know that. I do think it'll be like either 1 or 2 years. I think one, to be honest with you. They did a real good job at recruiting the offensive line position last year. So I think, with Julian Armilla, Robert Scott, Darius Washington, I think you're gonna have guys to step up to the plate. Jeremiah Byers. So I think it'll be another year before he get in there, and I think that'll help him develop his body and just get right. With Alex Atkins. With Alex Atkins, we all know he can develop and all that stuff. So, I think it's gonna be a year before he get on the field, though.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I think Lucas will be out there. I think we'll see Lucas in some games. I think we'll see him in the Southern Miss game. I think we'll see him in the Northern Alabama game. I don't think he's going to be a solidified starter, but I think we'll probably see him get the red shirt, maybe get a couple games under his belt this year so they don't ruin that red shirt. But I think he's a year away, especially all these transfers coming in, like you said, Norvell with Roddick coming in and Byers coming in and all these other guys on the offensive line coming in. It pushed his timeline if he was supposed to start this year, and that was the expectation, back another year. But I don't think that's going to hurt him because I think he's 300 pounds right now coming into college. So they may try to look to add, 30, 40 more pounds on him before they get him out there on the normal day-and-day grind of battling defensive linemen.
And I'll go ahead and just kind of allude to this last topic I want to talk about before we head on out of here for today. Florida State football, they released a graphic earlier today talking about that Florida State leads the ACC in viewership ratings since 2014. 3.09 million average viewership every single game that Florida State's played since 2014 at that point. And it seems like the logo is carrying weight, but there seems to be a lot of these graphics kind of going around, and I think this may be a method of Michael Alford's madness in terms of being able to get Florida State where they want to get to conference-wise, because as we all know, the grant of rights with the ACC is in 2036 at that point. It's a long way away. Florida State's still trying to be able to be competitive in that space. You see the revenue that they're bringing in. Everyone's talking about SEC and Big Ten and where will Florida State go if this were to happen or anything else. Do you think this is more of a power game with Florida State, or do you think it's just good common knowledge that you need to have and just kind of promoting a brand?
I think a little bit of both. I think proving the fact that the logo still holds weight is shutting up the people down south. You know what I'm talking about. But I think at the same time, it's also probably going to be a power struggle with Florida State athletic department because let's face it, the ACC is not the SEC in football. The ACC is not the Big Ten in football. The ACC is probably better than the Pac-12 in football. We'll give it that. But you add Florida State, a team that can compete like they have the last couple of years. You put them in a conference with the SEC where they pretty are well-known commodities there of winning games. I think it's been proven that they can compete with the big dogs. Let's just face the facts. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon if it was to happen. But if they were to leave the ACC, there's going to be a big buyout. But let's face it, the logo deal still does hold weight.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think it'll be no time soon. But I do think it's like a little bit of promoting there. We all know Florida State, when Florida State is good, even when they're bad, you still gonna get more views than like James said, than the programs down south. So I'm not even gonna tell a story. Now Florida, they do get their fair share, but the other school we ain't gonna talk about. We're not gonna talk about that.
The little brother to the programs, they don't get no.
Exactly, man. So I just we just keep this streak going. We keep these winning games, and you'll just see everything reap, the benefits, whatever. So hopefully we keep winning games and we keep getting the viewerships up.
Yeah, and I will say this: there's been a lot of FSU platforms kind of suggesting Florida State's going to the SEC or the Big Ten. We're not out here speculating or anything else about conference realignment or anything like that. If Florida State's number gets called, it gets called at the end of the day. I know Florida State wants to get in a position where they are getting as much revenue as they possibly can at that point, because that is what generates a lot of money in the school, helps recruiting, helps team success, helps a lot of different things. And Michael Alford does it best than anybody. So when you're looking at it, I think Florida State's doing a very, very good job in promoting their brand. But at the end of the day, they went 10-3 this past season, and they have to continue to build on that success. So that way they can continue that long-term success that we all want them to be at. I think that's very important going forward in the future. And I cannot wait for the future of Tallahassee in terms of Florida State University's football program and trying to elevate that game as well as the other sports as well. I think that's very important going there. And I certainly cannot wait for the future of this podcast, Chatting the Spear today. It was a great first episode, fellas. I really appreciate everything. And I hope each and every one of us can learn from these experiences, continue to showcase our viewers our passion and love for Florida State as always. And thank you very much, and go Noles.
Go Noles.
Go Noles.